go. There we go. Welcome to the Not Move podcast with your boy Bagg and your man Tinez.
What
What's
up,
good,
fellas?
Tinez?
What up, fellas? How you doing, Bagg?
Man, I can't call it. I'm hyped up for the season to get started. You feel me?
Yes, sir.
So, what's on the
So,
agenda today?
well, I think first we should probably talk about how our predictions are for probably next season. Also, talking about draft picks, free agency moves, what obviously they've done throughout the offseason, how we feel about it, and what the predictions are going to be for next year, how we feel like the record's going to be, things like that. Talk about the division as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Go ahead. You can kick it off then, my guy.
Well, first things first on the list, I really like to give credit for the Ravens is probably how they really did a lot with these rookies coming into next season, especially getting a steal like Mike Green. That guy I feel like is going to be one of the bigger outstanding rookies for defense coming into next year. We also have Malachi Starks, who is, in my opinion, a phenomenal safety. I know in previous times we have talked, I've also you told me there's other offensive linemen. Would you like to talk about them as well and mention them?
Yeah.
Because I know one of them you said was Emery Banks, right? Is that Emery Jones or
Emery Jones. Yes.
Emery
Third
Jones?
round.
Okay, I know it was one of the two names. Okay, where was he from again?
Ah, that's slipping my mind right now. One to say, no, what's the name was Marshall.
Oh, Mike Green. Mike Green
Mike
was
Green was
Marshall.
Marshall. Georgia
Georgia
was
was
Malik
Starks.
Starks.
Yep.
I
I think it
want
was LSU, right?
maybe either LSU or possibly no, not Michigan, not Michigan. I'm drawing a blank, but it was a hell of a steal. It was a hell of a steal. All three,
Yeah,
all three. The first round, second round, and the third round pick were steals in this year's draft, in my opinion.
I agree with you. So with that, I mean, I feel like right now, I feel like that's gonna be really great as additions to us. I mean, right now with the free agency, we just got Jair Alexander, which in my eyes is gonna be absolutely insane. I mean, a lot of people don't really think he's gonna play all season, which I'm like, I can see what you're going with because he's not the most healthy in the recent years. But then we also have to keep in mind this guy is getting himself a free shot to not only play with his teammates that he grew up with playing, but also get a chance to be around with really good athletes in each side of the field, having at least 3 to 5 all pros
Yeah,
in
for
both of
sure.
those segments of the ball. So, I mean, I feel like it's really good opportunity for him, especially with being said with all these younger players coming out like Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, who's also been playing many years for us. I think those two are going to be really, really great getting off press, man-to-man coverage. I mean, you can't name me a better man-to-man duo as far as corners than probably Marlon or Jair. That is probably right now, in my opinion, one of the best duo corners coming in the next season. Honestly,
I agree. I agree, and I'm with you on. I don't understand why people are saying that he's not going to play a lot, right, for the Ravens. And the reason why I disagree with that is because, yes, when Jair was in Green Bay, he did not play a lot the last 2 years. Well, two and a half, right? But the difference is that they kept rushing him back, and he kept rushing himself back in Green Bay because they needed him, right? He was a necessity. In order for their defense to be good, he had to hurry up and come back off the injury and get back on the field. That's
and that
not the
gets
case,
pressure,
right? And that's not the case with the Ravens, right?
right?
He's not a necessity, he's a luxury
Yeah, and
because,
especially from seeing a player like myself. I mean, when you're trying to go off an injury and when you are pressured into having to come back because your team is such in a close margin for making the playoffs or not making the playoffs, or whatever situation may be where you need that extra guy to come in. I mean, that will pressure any type of all pro athlete.
yeah, I mean, plus because they want to do it for their teammates anyway, right? Not only for their teammates, but they want to come back for themselves because when they're not on the field, athletes are kind of lost, right? Because
Correct.
their routine has been broken, right? They're very systematic and pattern oriented when it comes to sports, whether it's basketball, football. It's repetition. They do like the same game day ritual every day, right? Like with Lamar, he eats shrimp pasta, right, before
Yeah.
everything, and that's just his routine. So when you're not doing that, you'll seem out of place, right, and you'll seem a little out of whack, and that could throw your whole game off, right?
See,
Because
I'm glad you mentioned that because throughout the past like whole off season, I've been getting this theme of a lot of people blaming one said guy. And that to me is just as a player, look, you know where I stand, man. That shit just makes me just want to like. There's 11 guys on each side of the field.
yep,
If you are gonna look at one guy, you have to look at the whole totality. You can't just look at one said guy and say, "Oh, damn,
it's
he
his
says he
fault.
knows how to play the game, but then he said makes mistakes." Okay, yeah, he may say make mistakes,
Facts.
but shit, look what he made out of it.
Yeah, and it's a little funny because I can understand if you want to blame the quarterback when he turns the ball over on the last drive of the game, right? Because that's the end.
Exactly.
Like then I can understand that ideology or mindset to say, you know what, it's all the quarterback's fault, right? Or if on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? They need the game-winning touchdown to win the game, and he goes down there and he does it. He throws that game-winning touchdown on the final drive. Then you can give
Right.
him more creed and more, blame or credit. But unless it's that type of scenario, then you can't just say, "Oh, it's just the quarterback's fault," or "It's just the left tackle's fault." Like it's like you said, it's 11 guys on each side of the fucking, or excuse my language, of the football, right? But
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
three
It's just
phases. There's three
there's
phases.
three.
You got offense, defense, and special teams. Special teams has to do their
Yeah.
job as well, right?
Especially when you look at it from like an offensive standpoint, then you got to worry about first level, which is obviously the box, D
Yeah.
line, second level, linebacker, corner, safety beyond arc. So it's like when you look at things like that, and when you start trying to nitpick, oh, whose fault really is it, dude? It's a team.
Yep.
Is the loss on Lamar or is the loss on the Ravens? That's how I put it.
It's on the Ravens.
Is
Just like
exactly
none of the wins are Lamar Jackson wins, right? It's the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, but
correct.
he's not credit for the wins. The only time that I ever use a win category towards giving credit to Lamar, and I still frame it and say it how you're supposed to.
Hmm.
I say it just like this. Ever since Lamar Jackson has been the quarterback for the Ravens, the starting quarterback,
Hmm.
we have only lost to two NFC teams since
Correct.
2018.
That's
That is
correct.
the Giants and it's the Eagles.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're both in the NFC least, and I don't like that, right? But those are the only teams that have beaten the Ravens since Lamar Jackson has been the starting quarterback. And that I use that just to troll, right? Just to make it a little nitpick at the NFC, right?
Right.
Because I understand quarterback wins. I mean, wins are not a quarterback stat. It's a team stat.
Exactly. So with that being said, I mean, how do you feel about Lamar's options coming in the next season with now said addition to DeAndre, Zay Flowers? Do you think that might be something? Or do you
Absolutely.
think DeAndre will probably be more of like a flex or just a special option?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be the main focus, right? Like like I was saying about Jair,
Right.
when you hear that the Kansas City Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins, that was because Rasheed Rice got injured, right?
Correct.
So we all know Rasheed Rice was what? Their number one. So you
Yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so you had to go and get a number one replacement. We understand that D Hop at the age he is isn't really the D Hop of Houston and Arizona, a true bona fide number one.
But he's
We,
adequate enough.
but he's adequate enough. Even his
Right.
first year in Tennessee, he still had it a little bit, right? Until
I
he
get what
got
you're
injured.
saying. Yeah, I've always felt the same thing, especially when he was in said teams like Arizona, Kansas City. Like, yeah, he didn't perform like at a crazy role, but when he was out there, oh,
Yeah, and
ball in his hand.
we don't need him to be a number one,
No, we don't.
right?
I agree with you. I would rather have Zay and Rashad and have him at flex if need be. Let him control
Just
the
think,
slant.
Tina, just think about these options, right? If you're a defensive coordinator and you're going to play the Baltimore Ravens, all right, you have to worry about Axon Jackson, MVP times two himself. That's
Hmm.
the first person you have to worry about. And we already know how difficult that alone it is, right?
Right.
Then you got King Henry behind him. We just seen the the threat of Lamar Jackson keeping the ball in the RPO freezes everybody on that defensive line and that linebackers, all right? Just for a half a second, and that's all Lamar needs, right?
Hmm.
Then you got to go to the tight ends. Even though Mark Andrews is, kind of slowing down and he didn't look the best coming out the gate, in the beginning of the year last year, but he turned it on after week 6. Once he got healthy from coming back from that injury that happened last year, and because they rushed him back to get back to the AFC
Right.
Championship
No, they
game.
did. They really
And
did.
I didn't like that. I think that set Lamar, Mark Andrews back, and it kind of
I agree. I can see that.
it made to me, from what I could tell from watching the game, it made Lamar kind of hesitant to throw him the ball,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. Especially when you look at a guy that I think is going to probably up next year, Isaiah Likely. I mean,
Yeah,
when you talk about a tight end that can actually play really good with great hands, great extension, knows how to stack safeties and corners very well, especially going out in the seams, corners, drags. I think he's honestly going to be another really great option next year if Mark Andrews doesn't get over this hump. But I feel like right now, the way a lot of Ravens fans are looking at it, it was just a mistake. He's a damn human. Give him some grace. Give him some grace.
yeah. I mean, I was over it after the day after, right? Like, of course, I was mad that he dropped it in at that time, right? But I was more pissed that he fumbled than the drop, if that makes sense. I understand that the
I see what
drop,
you're saying. Yeah,
the drop 2-point conversion was to tie the game, and I understand that that is more important than the fumble in itself, logically. But for me, if you don't fumble the series before, it might have been 2 series before that, but earlier in the game, if you don't fumble at the 30-yard
hmm
line, at bare minimum, I think we get 3 points. But as you could tell, they couldn't stop us in the second half.
no, they
Right?
couldn't.
That Bills defense couldn't do shit. Couldn't do
Nope,
anything
nope,
with
absolutely not.
the Ravens offense, right? And if you ask me, if they score on that drive instead, and we still
Yeah,
have enough time left, I don't think we have to go for the 2-point conversion,
I
right?
agree with you.
We kick the field goal. We're down by 1. We get our defense. All right, defense, time to step up. Do what you've been doing in the second half. Stop. You know what I mean? Stop them. Because the only time we
Yeah, they
got
didn't
down
really
the
do that.
field in the second half was that penalty on Brandon
Hmm.
Stevens.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's right now, like, probably another thing that's really going to have to change next year is a lot of the penalties, offensive line mistakes,
Yes,
missed blocks, especially when it comes to zone option schemes.
for sure.
That's going to have to really change. Him dumping the ball off and now then having to run because fucking said tackle forgot to give missed block.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, but that shit's getting really annoying. I need, like, no offense, Ronnie Stanley. I know you're getting old, but you're gonna have to show some of these young rookies how to block. I ain't about to lie.
Like, everybody wants to say that we have a top 5 offensive line. I push back on that so hard, so heavy, because we were ranked ninth. when I looked it up on NFL.com, right?
Okay.
With overall in passing and rushing. But
That's more of a sensible stat considering if you put it all together, yeah.
the rushing, I understand, right? Because we were dominant. We were the second best. Well, actually, I think we were the best rushing team total between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, right? And Justice Hill. We had over 3,000 yards. I don't think
Correct.
Philly, I don't think Philly, even though Saquon led the league by himself in rushing, I don't think Gainwell and with Jalen Hurts, I don't think they did more than what Justice Hill and Lamar did, right?
Is
With Derrick
Patrick
Henry.
Ricard still on the team?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
He's the unsung hero.
Yeah, I was about to say, I didn't know if we still had the fullback. I didn't know if he like moved or whatever. Because nobody talks about that guy. Literally, nobody talks about Ricard.
I don't know why. He is like I said, he's the
Second
unsung
best
hero
fullback
on the offense.
literally in the league.
No, I think he is the best.
Better than Kyle?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
If you don't
It's
understand
very
when you
close, in
play,
my opinion.
me personally, I have never played under the whistle organized football. Right, I keep it a
Hmm.
book, but I know the game of football. My little brother played it. I've been around it my whole entire life, and I watched it. Right,
Right.
there's a difference what Pat Ricard does to what Juszczyk does. Juszczyk is a great fullback. I'm not saying that he's not. I would probably say
Right.
he
Right.
is the second best, right? Because there's only a handful of them in the league, point blank, period.
Right.
But what Patrick Ricard does for the Ravens offense, he's like a utility knife, right? Like a
Yes.
Boy
Yeah,
Scout
he's
utility
very
knife.
good. You could put him in the passing. You could put him in the run game block. You could put him in the ISO.
Or
You could
you
put him
could
in zone
put
scheme blocking.
him up as a tight end
That too.
for blocking schemes, right?
You get, or even then, have him as a slot. Have Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews as a tight end.
Yeah, like you can move him around. He's so versatile. And like I said, use check because we used to have use check. So like what he's doing in San Fran, he used to do the same thing for us, and it's great. But I
Right.
think because Patrick Ricard is 300 and something pounds, he's a fucking offensive lineman that moves like a fullback.
Yeah, and let me keep in mind when I say slot, I mean sniffer. So literally right up against the tight end, not actual slot. Everyone.
No, yeah, I got you. You're talking about just like a flank.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct. So you get
yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So then with that, right, now I want to kind of flip back and talk about Roquan because I know we haven't really talked about him. How do you think he is going to perform with this new box coming off with Malabike, with Mike Green, and then maybe possibly Kyle Van Noy also stepping up as well? Like, how do you feel these pieces are going to fit together with Roquan? Do you think he's going to actually break out? Do you think he's going to be like how he was in Chicago? Because even though I know he's heavily gotten the standard, because I know he's still set the standard, he's always set the tone, but do you see him actually making a really huge impact into possibly being like a really high DPOY candidate? I
I,
don't want to actually say it, but I'm gonna say it now.
I like me personally. I would love to see him win D boy and have that kind of year. Sure, I would. I welcome that, but do I expect that from Roquan? No. Just do what
Really?
you've been. Yeah, just do what you've been doing. Right. Be 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 top three at your position. Right.
Right. I was about
Be
to say because it's literally between him and Fred Warner, in my opinion, coming in the next year for linebackers.
and Levante David.
You
I'm
think
not gonna,
David's top three?
bro. A lot. I've been arguing this, because they had Matt Milano at number three for like the last couple years, right?
That is true. They have, yeah.
The top three, and he's deserving. So like he's not far off, but it was Fred Warner, San Fran, number one, number two, Roquan, number three, Matt Milano, and I'm like, well, yeah. Granted, because they've been into the playoffs, right? I can see why you want to use them. But if you go off of what Levante David has done in the last 5 years since they won that Super Bowl in 2020, it is nothing short of spectacular, my guy.
I get what you're saying. Okay.
especially for the new age football for the middle linebacker. Like he's everywhere. He's behind the line, tackle for loss, sacks. And he's great in coverage. He's diagnosing and reading the defense. He is the green dot, right? So he is the play caller on the field. I
He's
look. I
probably our
admire.
hardest hitter, and they're probably one of our biggest game changers, honestly. I
Yeah,
think he's probably a very big game changer for next year. Just considering the fact that you have all of that around him, dude. I'm sorry, but I've been saying this a lot on TikTok. My biggest emphasis for next year is literally just no excuses at this point. Like you have Roquan, we have Simpson, we have Malbike, we have Mike Green, we have Malachi Starks,
yeah.
Kyle Hamilton, Jair,
David.
Marlon Humphrey,
You got David Ajobe. You got
Nate Wiggins. Like we got the
Owe,
pieces.
Owe. Like it's. You're right. You're right. I don't want to hear any excuses either, bro. Unless
Like
it's
my thing is now, okay, you got it. Now go do it.
right. Unless like, and of course, when it comes to football, health is always in question, right? You all just stay healthy
Yes.
as long as. And I can only say that to a certain extent, right? Because we
Right.
are so stacked that unless it's probably one of four people, if one of
Mm-hmm.
these four people get injured, I can somewhat give, not even give them an excuse, but give them a pass. I could have an understanding why they didn't make the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, right? And there's two
Right.
on offense and it's two on defense.
Right.
On defense, it's Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. I think if
Right.
either one of those get hurt, that's a bad sign. On the offensive side, of course, it's Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. If either one of those get hurt, then it's understandable if they don't make it. I still think they should,
Right.
right? I still think they should because we are so stacked as a 50-man three roster. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to tell me, say, let's just say for shits and giggles, right? Kyle Hamilton does get hurt, right? And then Malik Starks picks up as the serviceable safety that he is. And he can do just somewhat of what Kyle does, just to hold it down for the last 7 games and then the playoff run. I can still be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, y'all still have made it still. But when you got a guy like Roquan going down, Lamar going down, or Derrick Henry going down, there is no, oh, okay, well, you still should have. I ain't trying to hear none of that.
Yeah. Especially towards like the beginning of the season, because man, this 4 6 game stretch that we're gonna have coming in is probably gonna be one of the hardest stretches probably in the league. Like
Yeah,
I'm just gonna name it off for you.
go
The
for it.
Buffalo Bills, the
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Rams, and then the Bears. Dolphins and Vikings. So out of all those, who do you think is probably gonna be, I guess you could say, do you see us losing of any of those games that I just mentioned?
Um,
And be honest.
run this, run the first six to me again.
Okay.
So Buffalo.
Buffalo, the Browns, the Lions, the Chiefs, the Texans, and the Rams.
Okay, so I would say the Rams because they played us
Ooh.
so well the year before.
Okay.
It took us into overtime, or maybe not overtime, but uh, um, a game-winning punt return by Terran Wallace, and maybe I want to say maybe who was before the Rams,
The Texans?
and then Kansas City was before that, right?
Yeah. Yes. And that's
Okay.
at Kansas City.
Yeah, logic, like reality wise, I think the Rams game is the only game we lose
Really?
in the
Wow.
first six. Yeah, because if you look at this, schedule that we had last year,
Mm-hmm.
our schedule was harder last year.
A little bit. Overall, yes.
Right,
Overall, yes.
as a total, right. This 6 game stretch that we have at the beginning of the year is kind of difficult. Um,
Very so, especially on the defensive side, it really is.
I mean, we could possibly lose the Browns game any given time, right? Like it's a divisional
We
game,
normally split with them. Yeah.
right? So
It's
that
either a
could,
split or a sweep, so.
right, that could possibly happen. So I mean, yeah, 4-2, 5-1 in the first 6 weeks, and I think if we can climb out of that bracket of 6 games, anything 4-2 or undefeated, oh man, you better look out.
Yeah. I honestly think we're
Look
gonna
out.
win the Buffalo Bills game just because, like, we lost in that game at Buffalo, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I've said this before, I'm saying it again. I'm expecting at least 20 on the board. Don't care.
I agree. I
I'm
agree.
expecting at least I want to see a 2 and a big fat 8 by the end of the game. Nothing said. Nope.
I
Uh,
want Buffalo. Buffalo shouldn't score no more than 14 points, in my
no,
opinion.
I agree. I agree. No, genuinely. Like this is a genuine like for me, if I was going in here and if I just lost to those motherfuckers like that, nah, nah. I gotta get my ones back. I'm sorry. I
Facts.
got you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like you gotta get the bag back.
On God, bro. Because like the defense can't be like how it was last year. It just can't. With
It
Jair
can.
back there, with you know what does, and I posted a video on my TikTok. When Darius Washington tore his Achilles in the
Ah,
beginning of
yes.
minicamp, that hurt
Yes.
because, bro, once Zach Orr moved uh, Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson to the bench and set their bum asses down and put Kyle Hamilton back at safety where he originally should have been,
I
and
know.
Darius Washington got the starting job as free safety, there was a switch, right? We went from the worst passing defense in the league at
To one
32nd
of the best.
to the best. No, to
Yeah.
the best. We went from
Really?
worst to
Yeah,
first,
we
yeah.
won one. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. I
Because,
didn't know we were 2 or 1.
you know, we went to one because within the last 6 weeks. So the first 11 weeks, we were ranked 32nd. Then he moved everybody to their correct positions. Darius Washington to free safety, Kyle Hamilton to strong safety, and of course Wiggins on the outside. And he moved Marlon Humphreys to the slot, which was the best thing for him, right? Because he's getting a little older, getting long in the tooth. He's getting beat down the field on the sidelines. Um, but the crazy part is I don't think we're going to have a bad start on the passing defense like we did last year. And because of that,
I agree.
those early games that we lost, because we were giving up 330 yards a game
Yeah.
in the air.
Yeah, it was pretty sad.
And then boom, right in week 12, when he put everybody in the correct position, it went from 330 to 180.
It's very large when you look at the numbers, especially when it comes to how impactful Kyle Hamilton is.
Yeah.
Which is like, in my eyes, honestly, I think he's gonna get like, didn't he get All Pro last year or no?
Mm-hmm.
He did, right?
Yes.
That's what I
Second
thought.
team.
Yeah.
Second team. Kirby
Second
Joseph.
team.
Yeah, Kirby Joseph got first team All Pro, and Hamilton got second team.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that.
But
Hamilton is.
Kyle had first team the year before.
Yeah, no, that don't make no sense. What the hell? Nah, that don't make no. I'm sorry, but to me, that don't make no sense. How are you gonna do better in your last year and then get second team, but then in your, how does that make sense?
You think he did better his second year than his rookie year?
Honestly, yeah.
I disagree.
I mean, with having said him coming back and then showing that he actually claimed that role, because see, last year he actually genuinely said, "Hey, this is my spot. Nobody's taking the spot." And now that you got Malachi Starks coming in, and this is what I think is going to happen. I think you're going to have Malachi as the free safety, and then have to bump down Kyle Hamilton, having to form like a nice cover 3. That way, even if something is over the top or if you need to crash down the alley, he's going to be able to do so
Right.
at that strong safety position. So kind of like a Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed.
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha.
how I feel like they're gonna kind of play Kyle Hamilton because now it's like, okay, we know you can do it. We know that even if you went from worst to best, you show that you can climb the ladder.
Right.
That's how I look at it. And me and JB and other people, we talk about this all the time where, yeah, okay, in the beginning, maybe you did bad, but you still ended off doing absolutely phenomenal. I
Right. But
can't really say you did worse then.
well, I'm not gonna say. Well, technically, yes, I am saying that because I think his first year was better. His rookie year was better because he played his rightful position the whole entire year. Right. Last year he didn't because Zach Orr had him down in the box more than anything. That stopped him from being the safety that he was the year before. Right. That's
True,
why.
but he was also still a leading tackler.
Very true. Very true. But I don't think so. He had more sacks his rookie year.
Yeah, I think so. Correct. Yeah, that
Yeah,
I know
I
for
know. I
sure.
know he did because he had
Yeah,
three in
he
one
definitely did.
game against Gardner Minshew when we played the Colts.
That's right.
Yeah.
I do
So
remember that because when we blew out the Colts and then we also blew out Miami.
yeah, like he was more impactful, like turnover wise, his first year than he was his second year.
Okay. See, when you talk about it like that, then I can see what you're saying. Okay, then I agree with you. If you're talking about more game changing, then sure, yes, I agree. Now, if we're gonna talk about more consistency, I think that's where it gets a little bit nitpicky because then it's like he still did this in the end, but I see where you're getting at now. So, do you think he actually is gonna perform, said better, maybe get a first team All Pro? Do you think that might actually happen once again, or do
Yeah.
you think he will still probably be flat fine?
This I feel the same way about Kyle Hamilton as I do Lamar Jackson.
Wow.
Barring neither one of them get injured, every year that they finish a season, they will be in contention for first team All Pro with Kyle Hamilton, and Lamar Jackson will always be considered an MVP every season that he finishes.
Okay, I see what you're
Minus
saying.
minus 2020. 2020 was the only off year when he played 15
I agree.
games and he only had like maybe he was like 100 yards short of 3,000.
Wasn't he injured that year, or was that the year before? Because
No,
I know he
that
was
was
injured in
the
one of them.
no. He was injured 2 years. So in 21, yeah, 21, 22 season and 22 going into 23 season, he um he missed 5 games. Yeah, he missed 5 games of each season at the end. He got injured.
Okay.
So, and I joke around saying this, but it is an actual fact. But I don't know if the hypothetical part would have came true. But I always say Joe Burrow's success is due to the fact that Lamar Jackson has been injured those 2 years, right?
Yeah,
Because
I kind of never wanted to say something like that to some Cincinnati fans, but that is kind of true considering we are 6-1 to them.
yeah,
So I'm just like,
and the fact just on the percentage of games that Lamar wins as a starter, right? Well, that the Ravens win as him being the starter is about 73 to 74% of the games, right? So every 4 games he plays, he wins 3, right? That's his ratio as a starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. So if you're telling me in 2021 we were first in our division at 8-3 going into week 12, he starts that game, gets injured, he doesn't play for the rest of the year. That is what made it possible for Cincinnati to jump up and win a division that year, right?
right.
And matter of fact, I don't even think they did that year. I think we still won it. We still won the division, but they beat us in that wild card game when Snoop Huntley was.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're
That
right.
might have been
Because
the
then
year
that's when they
after.
went. That's when they no, because then that's when they went to Kansas City, and then
So
they beat Kansas City.
that was their Super Bowl run year.
That would be 2023, right? You're thinking 2023?
The 2020 no. So Lamar got injured in 21 and 22.
Then that would probably not be it. I think that was
They went to the Super
also the
Bowl. The
Chiefs.
Bengals went to the Super Bowl in 21. They lost to the Rams because the Rams won in 21.
So I'm probably the one getting confused, and you might be right then, because I thought 2023 was the Rams.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
2023.
okay, then you're right.
Yeah, no. 2023 was the Chiefs.
No, it was Cleveland. Cleveland was also in 2021 too, because that was also when they had the best defense that year.
No. They Pittsburgh.
Because the Pittsburgh was a wild card game with the Browns.
Yeah, but that was 2020.
That was 2020. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
Big Ben's last year was in 2020, right?
Yeah, you're right. I always get confused with that one. Yeah, you're right. Because I forget because they faced them twice, but it wasn't like a 3-year split. Yeah, you're right. He's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So they played them the last game of the. They played them the last game of the year. The Browns in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin rested his players, right? He pulled, or not rested them, but he pulled them out like halfway through the game, and Cleveland ended up winning, making it to the fucking playoffs. Damn, excuse my language. Um, but yeah, they made it to the playoffs. They played Pittsburgh again. Pittsburgh spotted them 21 points in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. That was essentially the game. And then Big Ben retired after that.
Which is absolutely insane because right now I don't even know who's gonna probably be in competes with us right now, considering all the moves going into next season. Because right now you have still the Pittsburgh Steelers being in purgatory. You don't know what's gonna happen with TJ Watt.
Correct.
We don't even know if he's getting traded or not. There's rumors about him getting traded, and these have been going on for about at least 2 weeks. Minka's gone. Jalen Ramsey's in. We're just I'm not really moved by that. Jonnu, I'm kind of moved, but that's if he keeps progressing the way he's progressing. That guy might be a problem for the Steelers.
Okay.
Just considering because each year, if you look at, even though, yes, I get it, people, he's played on 4 different teams. I get it. But then also, if you look at from the past 3 to 4 years he's been playing, he has increased each year by 300 yards. That
Oh,
to
okay.
me is great production.
It is.
And in you being in all those in different teams, and you were doing that, that's crazy. I'm sorry, that's crazy. That's versatile. That guy's a problem.
I get it. I get it. 100%. I get it.
So it's like, yes, I can get it where people are saying like, oh, we have fire move. What's the point of this? Keep in mind, Jonnu still has been producing with other different teams within these past couple years.
And it's all, I mean, as we can tell with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, uh, Dawson Knox and Kincaid, it's very good to have a dual, uh, a duo in tight end, right?
Right. So before we end it off here, I actually wanted to ask you this one question, and that is probably going to be this. Out of all these teams in the division right now, who do you think is probably going to be the one coming up against us?
Um,
That we're going to have to maybe split or maybe possibly lose both. But I highly doubt that will probably happen.
yeah, I don't agree with any of them sweeping us. Um, I mean, I'm gonna respect the Steelers. I as much as I don't like when they say this because it's more of a detriment than a positive in my eyes. But
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tomlin never having a losing season, it's very impressive. But like I said, to me, it's a detriment to the, and it's the reason why they're still like treading water and really haven't progressed over the last 8 years.
So
Because,
you only see the Browns and the Steelers splitting us
well,
throughout the whole year.
yeah, I don't.
Okay,
I think we sweep the Bengals again. I
I
don't
also
think.
think that too.
Yeah, I don't think their defense has done enough to stop our offense. Like, we were one of the most potent offenses in NFL history last year. Like, we were close to the greatest show on turf, right? So
Right.
uh, the defense for the Bengals are going to have a little bit of problem. But of course, if our defense isn't up to par, Joe Burrow is going to throw a party on us like he did last year, right? But the
I get
thing
what you're
is,
saying.
we have to we have to win those games like we did last year, whether it's by 3, by 7, by 10. I don't care. We just got to get
I don't care either.
them.
A win's a win. A win is a win. And honestly, I think that's how it's going to go boil down to a lot of other teams too. Because even though we have these great weapons, things can change and things can evolve. So honestly, if we even win by said 7 points, I'm happy. A
Yeah,
win's a win.
yeah, yeah,
With
yeah.
that being said, though, we're going to sign off because I know it's getting a little bit down the wire here. We're about to hit probably in the 45-minute mark. Um, Shout out Not Move Podcast. We do this on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, TikTok, all pretty much most apps. You can hit us up on Instagram, uh, Snap, shoot. We even got a whole thing on TikTok. So if anybody wants to come in, shout out, show love, we appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I do want to give you your props. You were right about Emory Jones being from LSU.
Oh, yes, okay. That's actually good to know. Okay, because
And
I
I
was gonna
do,
say because I did see us getting picked by him, and I think he's probably gonna be one of the better offensive linemen,
yeah, him,
especially as far as rookies next year.
yeah. So we got him and what was his name? Carson Vincent.
Yep, yep. I forgot which school he went to, but I know it was somewhere in like
Uh,
the SEC, right?
Alabama A&M.
Alabama. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
because I knew it was somewhere out there. All
And
right.
I
Well,
want to, real quick before we sign off, I do want to say a couple players that I think we need to look out for, especially on the defensive side this year. Uh, I was really big on David Ajobi last year.
okay.
He showed flashes, so I really hope that he had a full healthy season. I think going into this off season, not having to rehab, and he can actually learn the playbook and actually get reps in training camp and in preseason. He's going to be a lot better. And also Trenton Simpson. I think second year with him, third year. I think
Yeah,
this is third year.
yeah. It's gonna be his third, I believe. So yeah.
Yes, yes, his third year. He had a couple missteps last year, and he got benched for it and got pulled out the rotation. Uh, then
But he's still
later,
gonna be a dog.
yeah, yeah. I think all he needs to do is he needs to learn to read the pre-snap, right, and just stay at his assignment. He rushes and he just wants to do too much, right? He's just over uh, overextending and over what's the word? Pursuing. He's over pursuing, right, and doing more than he needs to. I think
He's
if he just
yeah.
relax and just go and play within the system, I think he'll have a fabulous year.
I get what you're saying, 100%. I think a lot of these players too, especially with more of these veterans coming in, I feel like that's also going to give a lot of breathing room to some of these younger guys like Simpson, like Nate Wiggins, who didn't really come up the hump, but still performed actually very decent. So honestly, I think a lot of those players next year are going to change and evolve very well.
Yeah,
So I agree.
and the two on offense, real quick, is Dantes Walker that we drafted in the fourth round last year, the year before.
Hmm.
I heard that he's having a great mini camp, that he's shining and one of the most uh, uh, consistent in mini camp so far this year. And then the wide receiver that we drafted this year in the sixth round, LaJonte Wester from Colorado.
Oh, okay. Yep, I've heard of him. I've heard
I,
of him before.
I
He's
think,
nice.
yeah, they have him on special teams, so hopefully he'll be able to work his way up the depth chart and get some rotation and get some playing time at wide receiver because I think he's a nice comparable slot guy
I mean, hey, as long as he's got the speed and athleticism, I think he'll make it work.
for sure.
All right. Well, you have a good one, Bagg. Guys, I hope you have a blessed day and have a million blessings.
Big facts,
Namu
big
signing
facts.
off.
Yes, sir.